Okay, welcome to another edition of The Invisible Hand on the Fireground. Today with me I have an old friend of mine from Astoria, Joe Vosilla, who worked in Ladder 116, excuse me. And this is going to be part two of the Father's Day fire, the Forgotten Fire, as Lieutenant Brendan Manning had referred it to. So Joe, welcome. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us tonight about the Father's Day fire.
Yeah, my pleasure, Danny.
So it's good to see you. I haven't seen your face since God knows when. I mean, God.
Yeah, the schoolyard on 47th Street.
It seems like yesterday, right?
Yeah, man, that was that was before. We didn't run into each other on the job.
No, you were in Queens. I was in the Bronx. Yeah.
Right. So just one or two things here and there, and it's just the circles changed.
Right. But we did play a lot of softball, a lot of football, in the schoolyards, in the YMCA, and whatever other leagues we had. I forget the other league that we used to play in. The Saint League, I think it was, right?
Sure.
Was it the Saint? So
yeah, I guess that's Skillman, it's all the neighborhoods. Yep. On my side of Broadway was Precious Blood. On the other side of people across the street from me were all St. Joe's.
St. Joe's. And we were St. Teresa's, and then we had up on the other side, we had St. Sebastian's, and then Queen of Angels, and then Corpus Christi. So we all played the same sports. We played CYO,
Right.
YMCA, and it was a close-knit neighborhood back then. We all knew each other.
Yeah, everybody was friends after, even during high school years with us, drinking age was 18 for us. So that was 16 in bars.
I got it. Yeah. So I remember, for some reason we were talking the other day, and I remember you working in UPS before you got on the fire department.
Yeah.
I was thinking that you were in that group with me, with the Checos and the Bruce Del Giorno and Pete, and we're all lugging down to Nazareth every other night, seemed like, with Bob Checo, and loading up the car and heading down to Flatbush, But
yeah, I hit the next one with Jimmy, the next class. Was working for UPS. In the mid-20s, I really didn't know too many firemen, so nobody was telling me come over. Other than, like I said, Mark Horak and Bobby Pine. That's about it from our neck of the woods that I know.
Right.
I knew mostly cops, and I didn't want to become a cop.
No, you and me both. So you got on a job in
let
91.
alone what they have to go through now. God bless them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But Joe, you got on 91, was it?
Yeah, not till 91. Yep. I guess I took the written test probably less than 1 year than my eligibility would have ran out.
Right. So then when you came out of Proby school, you went right to 116?
Yeah. There was I'm not sure how I got there because 3 people helped me.
Right. But that's kind of a rarity that you basically worked in a neighborhood where you grew up in.
Yeah, not far. I mean, it wasn't that. Yeah, it's it wasn't. I mean, one of the nights I was working, I was glad I was working because we had an odor of smoke kitchen fire that wound up being a dud. But we smelled something, and what we smelled was the 5 garages 2 houses away from where I lived, where I parked my car, was on fire. so I'm glad I was working and my car wasn't on fire.
All right. Well, yeah, that's kind of interesting. I always thought it was. I did work when I got promoted to captain. I worked in the old neighborhood for a year. It was interesting working in the old neighborhood because the buildings, right? You grew up in the neighborhood.
Oh yeah, that's I didn't mind driving in the neighborhood, knowing where you were going and almost whatever what buildings were there before you got to them. Yeah. It was a little bit more of experience that you kind of get.
It was the Father's Day fire, right, which you were at, and 2 weeks ago we had on Brendan Manning, at the time was lieutenant, wound up retiring as a chief, and Brendan and I spoke a lot about the fire because I was working that day. I was working a 58 engine, and I remember, for some reason, I just remember the way the whole thing transpired, and I was doing some research, and I have Jay Jonas is a deputy chief in the 7th Division, does this newsletter, right? He calls it the Training and Safety Newsletter from the 7th Division. So I was reading through it, and I picked up a few things that I never heard about, before about this fire, right? So, there's a few things going on. First of all, how it started, right? And I want to talk to you about this in a little bit. I don't want to talk about it right now, but the 2 kids from the neighborhood were doing graffiti, right? Did you ever hear that story?
Yeah, I knew they were playing in the backyard. That's all I got the gist of. There were 2 kids in the backyard.
Right. So they were doing graffiti, and they were using gasoline. They wanted to, I don't know what that means. They were going to do gasoline, and they were going to burn something onto the door, and they spilled the gas can. And then the vapors permeated down into the basement, right? Because
Right.
gas vapors travel low, and they hit the water heater and then caused the fire, right? And another interesting thing about this fire, those 2 buildings, they were 14th Street and Story Boulevard. They were connected in the basement, so the doors were illegally chocked open, which should not have happened. And plus, they were storing all kinds of stuff in there that flammables and whatnot. So what happened was, according to this report that I'm reading here, is that they put out the box. You guys might have, I don't know if you were there, but they had a Freon leak in a supermarket on 21st Street.
Yeah, that's why, because we were supposed to probably be second due there, but we got there first because we were, leaving that area before, we were there later than 117 was there. That's all.
So 117 would have been first due. Then you
Probably
guys,
right.
You would have been second due. So according to the ticket, it was initially, I think, 260, which is quite a distance, right? They're coming from over by 21st Street, all the way over by the Roosevelt Island Bridge, right? And then you had 163 truck was first due coming from my old neighborhood in Woodside in the 4-5 battalion. 288, I remember the squad 288 was on the air, and they kind of stumbled across it, right?
They were at the supermarket also when they, kind of turned around at 14th Street off of 21st.
Right.
So they smelled the odor, and that's why I think they called it in.
They called it in, right? So you wound up being first due.
Right.
Okay, so according to this now, he says that first of all, when they pulled up, they met an older guy. I guess he was the father of one of the kids. And he knew right away about where the fire was, and he took him right to the fire. So it turns out later on that it was the father of the kids, one of the kids.
Yeah,
So 280 pulls up, and you know what, Joe? It's one of these buildings too, which the chief, Billy Seelig, was a great guy. I knew him from the 6th Division. And I remember him when he was a captain, but there was more levels on the back than there was in the front. So on the front, on Astoria Boulevard, there was two stories. In the rear, there was 3.
Right.
So according to this now, the Captain Murphy, Dennis Murphy, he told them to stretch a line, and they started working on the roll down gates in the front. And then they started with 1 3/4, then they went in with a 2.5, and they went to the front of the store. But they realized that once they got into the store, that they couldn't really go any further because they got to the interior stairs and they couldn't get down
into the basement. Correct. Yeah.
So
it was pretty backed up.
So at this point, I'll kind of turn it over to you. So I didn't realize that Patty Horn was the captain 116. I thought he was in 136. Was he just covering there for the day, or
he was covering? Yeah, whoever that was definitely a covering officer.
Right. So
I remember. Yeah.
So what was it like when you pulled up? Was there was there anything showing?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't that much smoke coming out of that I recall. The back of the building had a brick wall, but it was gated for like a driveway entrance. so we couldn't get into, we had to thinking of breaking that first. And then there was a doorway next to that just kind of went in also. And then once you got in there, then you had the back door entrance, and the windows you couldn't even really break, because not only did they have the metal inside them, but they had the diamond gates on the outside. So you only could poke holes.
Got it.
So it wasn't even worth doing almost. So
just being from Astoria, I know Astoria is a big place. I never realized how big Astoria was until one day. I always thought, for some reason, Astoria ended on what was it, Astoria Boulevard. I didn't realize that there's another whole section of Astoria that goes on for like another mile. But I know, like, I've been down there. I remember going down there when we used to go down to Astoria Pool. That would be like in that area. My father used to live in Marine Terrace on 21st Street. Yeah. But did you know this building at all before you got there? Was it something that you already knew?
Yeah, actually, I've been in that hardware store before, because my parents owned a laundromat. So we would, my brother and I would get some certain things there. So I've been in that building before.
Right. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is that, like, when it came in for a phone alarm and like really not much is showing, that you already had like a picture in your mind of what the building was all about.
Oh yeah, it was the corner building. We pretty much assumed those 2x3 windows were boarded up into the basement from being in that neighborhood close to the projects. You weren't going to be able to get into that. So like I said, that's when we went into the back first, and then 163 started working on the door right away. I couldn't work on the window. And then by that time, excuse me, back outside, that's when Downing and Harry Ford were using the Hearst tools and taking the 2x3 windows in the basement.
Right. So initially, according to this report, they said that you went to the roof. Did you go to the roof first at all?
I did go to the roof with the first guy. It was one of the rotating guys that I thought needed help to go to the roof.
Okay. Got it. So you're up on the roof, and then eventually you came back down, I guess?
Yeah, it was just to make sure he got up and got things, started. And then I was just right down.
So I'm looking at the diagram of the building. So you were on 14th Street. The position, the 116th Street on 14th Street, right?
Right. I believe there are only 2 basement windows, but I'm not 100% sure on that side of the exposure.
Right. So there is a diagram now. So as this is progressing, Brendan spoke about this. They were having a lot of trouble with the door in the rear, and they brought the Hearst tool, right?
Yeah, they were on that for a while. Like I said, I was on trying to get the window, and then I was going to go back and get the saw with Dave, and then I decided to work on the windows that Downing and Ford were just at.
So did you hear they talk about in the report about these cans popping all the time?
Yeah, that's when I had my head in the window, and basically that's why I turned.
Yeah. So just to put things in perspective, I remember one time going to an explosion, right? A lady in the projects was fumigating her apartment, and she got like 2 or 3. This happens a lot in the Bronx. They use these roach bombs. They're aerosol, and they leave the apartment. They shut it all up, and they leave the apartment. But sometimes the people forget to shut the pilot light off, and then we have this massive explosion. And just 3 cans one time, I remember, blew out the walls. It wasn't really, wasn't concrete block, but it was sheetrock. But the sheetrock walls were blown to bits. The windows were all blown out just from like 3 aerosol cans. So now you're working at this hardware store, which is loaded with all sorts of flammables, combustibles, paints, aerosol cans, and whatnot, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I had my head in the window with my hook clearing whatever was stacked upon those shelves. Couldn't even see because smoke was coming back out. Then I heard a couple of, I started hearing a couple of explosions, pop, 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 and
Right.
didn't know how close they were to the window and figured let me turn. And when I turned, that's basically when the wall exploded. And
So, according to the report, Brendan opened the door about 18 inches. He was able to squeeze in with the chief, Duffy. And when it blew, Brendan got blown out into the way past the guys that were there. The chief got banged up pretty bad. The door, the picture of the door, I don't know if you ever seen it, Joe, but you ever see the picture of the door that blew off?
after it, no.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna
I-
post
I-
it. I'm gonna post it on the website, the picture of the door. It's amazing. Like, I mean, it's just blown. This is a real, it was reinforced with rebar and into the concrete. And
I believe it because they were working on that door for a while.
right. So now we get to the point where now the fire's rocking and rolling. Your company's at the top of the stairs, Captain Horn, with whoever the inside team is. You're now outside. Did you see Harry and John? Like John, I spoke about this last time. John, I knew John from Woodside. He grew up in St. Sebastian's,
Yep.
and his sister Rosie was in my class at St. Francis College. So I knew Rosie. I knew John. John was a big guy. I remember playing CYO. He was my age, and
Okay, yeah.
he
I
always
knew he
played.
was a couple of years younger than me, but I didn't know him too
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, well, he used to play the middle. He was a big guy. I was a little peanut, So, St. Sebastian's was a powerhouse, and we were like the wannabes, right? So, and then Harry Ford was back there. So according to the diagram, you were like really, literally right next to those two.
Yeah, they were in the next window, 12 feet away, whatever it was. So, John had his back to me, and then there was the Hearst tool, and then Harry on the opposite side, further away.
Right. So the point of the story is we call this the invisible hand on a fireground, and what we're looking for is stories that we can't explain. And what happens next, and what you told me, gives me chills up my spine when you tell me what happened. So you're in the window, things aren't going good, and then what happens?
Yeah, like I said, I started hearing a couple of pops, and decided to protect this semi-pretty face. and from the time I started hearing pops to before I fully turned around, I heard a voice that said, "It's blowing." Don't know from where that came from.
Wow.
But I definitely heard it.
Wow.
And that's pretty much, I recall that after I woke up from the coma, a couple of weeks later. I remember hearing something. That's why I thought at the time that, not knowing what happened, because I was in a coma for 2 weeks,
right,
that Harry might have said something on the mic that it's blowing.
No.
He was that good.
I don't think so.
Yeah, but like I said, it's
Yeah.
but I didn't see his window, so was did he see another sign of smoke going in to the backdraft? So like I said, I don't know where that came from, whether it was a voice in my head or my guardian angel.
It was your guardian angel, I think. I want to believe that. Yeah.
And
I remember. Oh God, Joe, I remember seeing you. You couldn't walk. I remember I saw you like a month later, and you were
I was
so banged up.
I mean, they didn't allow me to move for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
My ex-wife was a physical therapist, and she was saying, he can move his arms, let him do some things, and
yeah,
they just had me drugged up, and they didn't want any movement with anything else.
Yeah.
And then one of the major problems was they put 10 screws in my front pelvis, but one of those screws actually repunctured the bladder that expanded
Oh,
after it was repaired.
oh,
So after 3 days, I was just, for 6 weeks, basically, I was leaking on myself until they
yeah.
finished closing me up 6 weeks later.
Wow. I mean, Joe, I know you've seen the pictures of the building. I mean, everybody, I mean, I remember the funerals, guys in wheelchairs and crutches and wrapped bandages around it. I mean, everyone. It's a miracle that we didn't lose 30 guys that day. I mean, it was just.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't see the picture until years later. I mean,
Yeah.
just a picture of myself. I mean, I didn't even see a mirror or go into the bathroom until my second day of physical therapy, when I was actually strong enough to get into the bathroom
Yeah.
and see that when I used to weigh 195 pounds, I weighed 150.
Well, Joe, you were always a great athlete. I remember you very
Yeah.
very well playing football, and I mean, you were like a strong, like a
Yeah.
athletic guy, and
Yeah.
I just like when you told me you heard that voice, I was like, I just blew me away. I said, like, if you had not heard that voice, you probably God
Well,
forbid.
like I said, there was even, as I turned around, I didn't know the wall, everything was blowing like to that extent, for sure. Like I said, I was just assuming, like I said, it's, some type of aerosol spray can, most likely paint. That's the
Right.
first thing that I would think would go. So, like I said, I was just kind of turning away from that and thinking that's all that was going to happen. And, then you turn around again and you take care of your job, but that's not what happened.
So you said that after the collapse happened, which took out like half the building, there was a white car there. I think you were trapped. You were pinned in between a car, I think, and that white car in the corner, something like that. Or
Well, I think, from what I was told, I was, just perpendicular to where the wall would have been, maybe about a yard and a half away from where the wall would have was, give or take. So, but basically it turned into like a head first slide because of my turn.
It's amazing.
At first I didn't know, what was going on, and I felt something on me. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna push it off.
Right.
And nothing was there. And I noticed specks of light, I guess, through the bricks, because I was told that, my hands and head were covered with about a foot of bricks, and my feet were covered with about 2-3 feet of brick.
Right.
So I wasn't able to see out, but I was able to see light. So all right. So then I said, all right, well, I'll just scream for help. And that's when I knew there was definitely something the matter, because I barely took the breath and nothing came out. So that's when I knew something was buried on top of me. And then I just told myself to relax, breathe slowly. If you can see out, maybe someone can see you, and someone's gonna come and get me.
Wow. I'll tell you, Joe, when that explosion happened, I spoke about this with Brendan, that I was in 58 engine and I heard the second alarm come in. I turned on Queens. I was kind of buffing your job a little bit. And I remember hearing this report. It says here, and I remember this so distinctly. It says, all right, Battalion 49 gave a progress report. We have 3 lines stretched in operation. Trucks are opening up. We have a basement fire. Progress is slow due to blockage and explosions in a basement. I walk out of the room. I go into the bathroom. I come back 2 minutes later. John Calamari looks at me. He says, Danny, the building just blew up. And I was just like stunned. I was like, there's 3 lines stretched in there. And, and you guys, I knew were in there. And I thought it was going to be a disaster. I thought this was going to be worse than any fire that we've ever had. And, wow, I just have to say that the Angels were busy that day. Guys at this fire were thrown everywhere. Guys were, thrown out of the second floor. Now, Brian Fahey was in my probie class. He sat pretty much right next to me. And, I know you probably didn't know Brian prior to the fire because he was in rescue.
Well, yeah, just meeting him through Rescue 4, we've seen
Yeah.
each other over the years.
Right. So, so that was that. So I wanted to ask you though, now get back to how the fire started, right? With the two kids. They were neighborhood kids. I'm sure they didn't have any malice, right? Have you ever spoken to those kids?
No, I never did. They didn't bother me. Nothing about what they did bothered me.
Right. So you've kind of forgiven them, right? I mean, you don't hold.
Yeah, that was it.
I mean, they were just being kids, right?
Yeah, and from my first, from what I had heard, I didn't realize that they were burning graffiti with that gasoline. I had just heard that there was a gas, like I don't even know if they brought that.
Right.
That can might have been there.
Okay.
I'm not 100%. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Right.
About that part of it. But I didn't,
Right.
Again, I wasn't doing any research from where I was.
Yeah. Yeah. How are you feeling these days? Because I know the last time I saw you, you were having trouble walking. I know you got banged up.
So I used to have the complete drop foot on the right side with the nerve damage.
I remember that.
That came back mostly coming up, but I still can't circle that foot. So I could still kind of fall over to my right.
Right.
I never really used the brace for that because as long as I stand wide footed, I don't fall over and things like that.
Right.
So, but so the right side of the body kind of hurts a lot more than the left. The left semi feels normal.
Yeah.
I'm restricted of doing things, that's for sure. But I do okay.
Joe, did your relationship with your faith change after this incident?
But that part didn't change me with the religion. Not that I'm a devoted Catholic anymore for sure, but I didn't think, I think I was there, I helped, and like I said, I don't know about that voice and the angel and all. I'm not, I didn't see any special light while I was down, and I don't know. I didn't feel anything different anyway.
Right. Well, you would definitely, judging by the pictures, I'm going to post them when I put this up. I mean, I said this to Brendan. It looks like someone, like when you see World War II pictures from Dresden or from Liverpool or from London, like buildings that were just totally bombed out, and half that building is gone.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've seen that pretty much right where the back third of that wall would have been. There's like there's from that window up is gone. So there wasn't anything left to that side of the building, that's for sure.
But you survived that.
I know. I don't know. It's
Joe, I remember this from studying. 1 cubic foot of brick weighs 100 pounds. Right? So think about how many cubic feet of bricks was on top of you.
Yeah. And
Tons.
just the force of the explosion too is worse. So I don't even, the weight the weight is kind of evenly distributed. The force happened.
You heard that voice.
Yeah.
I don't think that was a human voice. And I've been talking.
Probably not. So, but I don't know for sure.
You'll find out someday, I'm sure. So
yeah, maybe.
All right, Joe. Well,
but I thank God I am here.
No, and it's good to see your face. I haven't seen you in God. I can't remember the last time I saw you. Probably.
Well, like I said, I mean, the last time I can picture you was one of the last years and one not on a job yet in 88, 89 and on 47th Street.
Yeah.
That's
hanging out in the schoolyard.
At the schoolyard with the boys.
Joe and I both went to Powell Memorial Academy in Manhattan.
What I have to say is that, I know that when we were there, it was tough, the Irish Christian Brothers, but, they instilled in us, I think, a sense of right and wrong, and I think it shows. And you chose the fire department as a career. You did 10 years, I guess, right? Before you got hurt.
Yeah, a little over. Yep.
So, I think that's what came out of those parochial school systems is a lot of good guys. And I think God blessed us. He definitely blessed us. He blessed you that day. I mean,
Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
I would say.
I was blessed. That was a miracle.
All right, Joe. Well,
That was Joe Vosilla and his incredible story of survival from the Father's Day fire. Actually, this Father's Day will be 20 years since the explosion. And next week, or in 2 weeks, I plan on doing a third part to the Father's Day fire. So until then, thanks for being here and be safe, and we'll see you again next time.